will speak now, Mr. Smith, if you like.
My name is Jim Millette. I live at 1623 Greenhaven Drive. I also am not speaking for or against the moratorium. I'm simply wanting to ask, and in my view, a public hearing is open to questions by the citizenry of those whom have called the public hearing. And in my view, you ladies and gentlemen are the representatives of the citizenry in this issue. And I simply wanted to know, what was the issue that precipitated the sudden decision to have a moratorium? There certainly has been a great deal of time spent, in my view, a positive amount of time spent looking at an area that needs to be improved. But I'm simply wondering, what was the urgency of putting this moratorium in place now? And I believe Mr. Smith has said that you're not going to respond to questions, but I perhaps differ with Mr. Smith in a public hearing. That's the purpose for the representatives of the city, to respond to questions of the citizenry. I don't disagree that the Spring Valley corridor needs to be improved. I think it's a positive thing. I'm just curious as to why this occurred all of a sudden when we've been looking at this issue and it's been under study for more than a year almost. Can you tell me what the issue was that precipitated the urgency of this moratorium?
I can't answer that question, sir, because I don't know if there was a specific issue.
Can I comment
Sure.
on that question? I had the same concerns that you did. And my question to city staff was, what are we afraid of? What's the issue here? And the answer was, there isn't anything we're afraid of. We just don't have an ordinance that governs a particular area, and we need to have one. So the way to do that is to put a moratorium in place so they can develop one. But I certainly
So, Mr.
agree with the
Hammond.
question. I just want to share with you the answer that I have.
Well, I appreciate that, Commissioner Hammond, and I was in the dark about that as well, and it's rather surprising to me that members of this commission are in a similar position as the rest of the public. It concerns me that an issue like this, a moratorium, is put into place for a purpose. And since we have been looking at this area for an improvement, there certainly should have been something that prompted the aegis of this moratorium at this particular time and the speed at which it's been going on. And that was my question. I guess you and I are equally uninformed on that. And perhaps Mr. Smith could comment on possibly what the purpose of the speed of the moratorium was, if you desire to, sir.
Sure. As soon as you finish making your statements, I'm happy to address any questions that the Planning Commission has.
I appreciate the comment and answer by Mr. Smith. He's the city attorney, and I'm sure he knows the purpose of his comment. I'm simply asking once again whether anybody on this commission can tell me specifically what the reason was for the urgency of this moratorium to be put into place. At the last meeting, which unfortunately wasn't noticed properly for whatever reason, one of the commissioners made a statement saying, I understand the urgency of this moratorium. I'd like to understand what the urgency of the moratorium was, and possibly none of you can answer that question. I'll be perplexed, but I'll have to accept it. Does any of you know what the urgency was? You have a...
Mr. Keith, you may.
I don't know that there was any specific issue brought forward, but I personally attended many of the studies that were done on the Spring Valley corridor by the study by the Leland Group, who was hired by the city to do that study. And at the end of the study, they made some recommendations to the city as far as these are the, zoning issues should be looked at, ordinance should be looked at. Those things, if we follow the step-by-step process. So I feel like that could be part of the reason that this is the next step, is to now study those zoning ordinances, those other issues that, but as far as any specific issue that came up, I don't know of any.
And you weren't told of any, I assume, then?
No, no.
Mr. Henry, Mr. Fiorito?
Now, Mr. Millett has offered up a couple of things. He's offered up asking about purpose and urgency, two issues. And I think that if Monica would put up the purpose again, it might help Mr. Millett know what the purpose of the moratorium is. And urgency, I have no idea.
I understand the purpose. My question was the urgency.
Okay, well, you had addressed both issues. There's the purpose. And I asked about this earlier. And but I didn't get the urgency. I don't know what it is.
Well, I'm probably running out of time, but I just have a problem with this study's been ongoing over a year. The recommendation came through and went to the council. I can't recall specifically, but it was over 4 or 5 months ago, on what the city needed to do to improve this particular area. And again, I'm in favor of redevelopment of the area. My question simply is, what was the problem or the urgency to put this moratorium in place now? It could have been done previous to that, if you followed the facts that the consultants recommended. I'm just wanting to know, as a citizen, was there a specific request to the city about rezoning a current property or a development or redesign a development? I'm a little surprised that members of the P&Z Commission weren't informed of what the urgency was for this particular moratorium, and the fact that it appeared so suddenly and the urgency of it was supposedly necessary. And unfortunately, I'm not going to get an answer to that tonight, because from what I understand, none of you commissioners have been apprised of it. I guess I'm going to have to go away without an answer. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time tonight. Any questions for Mr. Mullen? No? Anyone else here to speak in opposition to this item?